The worst part wasn't the message itself. It was the second right after it's sent, when his brain caught up and his stomach dropped so hard it felt physical. I miss you. That was it. 3 words. No emoji. No explanation. Just sitting there on his screen like a loaded gun. He blinked once. Then again. Wrong contact. Not his kid. Not his sister. Not even a friend. It was her. The CEO. The woman who once fired an entire department head during a Monday meeting and didn't even raise her voice doing it. The woman people straightened their backs for when they heard her heels down the hallway. The woman whose name was whispered more than spoken. His thumb hovered uselessly over the phone. There was no undo, no take back. Just those 3 words sitting in her inbox, naked and wildly inappropriate. Damn, he muttered under his breath. He was a single dad, tired, running on caffeine and guilt and not enough sleep. He'd meant to send that text to his 8-year-old who'd been staying with the neighbor since early morning again. Another rush goodbye. Another promise of tonight, buddy. Now this. His screen lit up. Seen. His chest tightened. He didn't even notice the office quiet down. Didn't notice the way typing slowed, conversations faded. What he noticed was the sound of footsteps. Calm, unhurried, dangerous. Then her office door opened. Every head turned. She crossed the floor without saying a word, eyes forward, posture perfect. No phone in her hand. No visible emotion. Just controlled movement and absolute confidence. She stopped at his desk, didn't speak right away, didn't smile. She leaned down, close enough that he caught a faint, clean scent. Not sweet, not soft, sharp, intentional. And then she whispered, low enough that only he could hear it. Say it again. His fingers froze above the keyboard. His heart slammed so hard he thought for a second everyone could hear it. The entire floor had gone dead silent. No one breathed. No one dared move. He kept his eyes on the desk, on the spreadsheet that suddenly meant nothing. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. That message wasn't meant for you. She straightened slowly, adjusting her sleeve like this was a normal Tuesday interaction and not the most terrifying moment of his career. Is that so? She said, voice flat. He nodded once. Yes, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. She looked at him for a long second, not angry, not amused, just assessing. Like she was filing him away under a category he didn't want to belong to. Then she turned and walked back to her office. No threat, no lecture, no HR, just silence. The office exhaled all at once, but the weight didn't lift. It sat on him for the rest of the day. Through whispered conversations, through sideways glances, through the buzzing anxiety that told him this wasn't over. His phone buzzed later. A message from his kid. When are you coming home? Guilt twisted in his chest. Soon, buddy. Love you. He stared at the words before sending them, wondering how 3 simple sentences could cause this much damage. That night, after the apartment went quiet and the lights went low, he sat alone at the kitchen table, cold coffee untouched. Somewhere across the city, the CEO was awake too. And he had the uneasy feeling that his mistake had just shifted something neither of them could ignore now. The next morning didn't explode. That almost made it worse. He walked into the building expecting something. An email, a summons. HR waiting by his desk like grim reapers with clipboards. Instead, everything looked normal, too normal. People chatted by the coffee machine. Someone laughed near the windows. The world had the nerve to keep moving. He sat down and logged in, hands steady on the outside, nerves doing laps on the inside. No email, no message, no sign from her. By 9:30, the whispers started. Not obvious, not loud. Just enough. Conversations stopping when he passed. People pretending to be very focused on their screens while absolutely not working. He caught his name once, then twice. Someone across the aisle leaned over to another desk and murmured, "That him?" He kept his head down. This was how it worked here. Nothing was said directly. Power didn't need volume. Around 10, his phone vibrated. Unknown number. His pulse jumped. He opened it anyway. You should be more careful. That was it. No greeting, no signature. He stared at the screen, jaw tight. He didn't reply. There was no point. Whoever sent it wanted a reaction, and he wasn't giving one. He slipped the phone into his pocket and tried to focus on the report in front of him. Numbers blurred. Words stopped making sense. His mind replayed the moment at his desk over and over. Her voice, the way she'd leaned in, the fact that she hadn't fired him on the spot. At lunch, he ate in his car. He needed the quiet, needed space where no one could watch him think. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was her. No subject line, just a single message. Come to my office, 3:15. His stomach dropped. No punctuation, no explanation. That was worse. The rest of the afternoon crawled. Every minute felt stretched thin. At 3:14, he stood, straightened his shirt, and walked toward the executive wing. Each step felt heavier than the last. Her assistant didn't look up when he arrived, just gestured toward the door. Inside, the office was immaculate. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, no personal photos, no warmth. It fit her. She didn't tell him to sit. She closed the door behind him and turned slowly. You understand why you're here? She asked. Yes, he said, honest. She studied him for a moment. Not his clothes, not his posture, him. You caused a disruption, she said. Unintentional or not, I know. Rumors travel fast in this building. I've noticed. Something almost like amusement flickered across her face. Almost. You texted me something personal, she continued. Something people would kill for an explanation about. He swallowed. It wasn't meant for you. I know, she said. I checked. That caught him off guard. Checked? She tilted her head. Your work history, your schedule, your file. Of course she did. You're a single father, she said. Not a question. He nodded. And the message? She pressed. For my kid, he said quietly. I miss him during the day, that's all. She was silent for a moment, then unexpectedly she said, I envy that. He blinked. You envy? Missing someone? I envy having someone to miss, she said, voice low. And someone who misses you back without conditions. The room shifted. This wasn't disciplinary. This wasn't corporate. This was something else. She took a step closer, not invading his space, just enough to close the distance. I won't tolerate gossip, she said, but I also won't pretend I didn't feel something when I read that message. His heart pounded. I didn't intend. I know, she interrupted. That's why it matters. She held his gaze. This stays professional, she said. For now, for now. You didn't do anything wrong, she added. But don't mistake my restraint for indifference. She opened the door. You may go. He walked out on shaky legs, mind spinning. Back at his desk, nothing looked the same. The mistake hadn't ended. It had just been acknowledged. And that was far more dangerous. Before we continue the story, let me know in the comments how you liked it and where you're watching from. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe so you cannot miss the best stories. After that meeting, the office felt like a different planet. Not hostile, not exactly friendly either, just alert. Like everyone sensed something had changed but couldn't quite name it. People smiled a little too politely. Conversation stayed surface level. The gossip didn't disappear, but it learned how to whisper better. He stuck to his routine. Clock in early, head down, get the work done, leave on time to pick up his kid. No mistakes, no excuses. But restraint only works when both sides are playing the same game. By Thursday, he noticed the emails. Not inappropriate, not personal, just frequent. Can you clarify this data point? Send me the revised numbers directly. Quick question when you have a moment. She didn't loop in his manager, didn't CC anyone, always him. At first, he told himself it was coincidence. He was good at his job. Reliable. That's what she'd said. But after the fourth direct message in one day, he couldn't ignore the pattern. At 4:40 p.m., another one came through. Stop by before you leave. No time. No explanation. He hesitated. He should have said he couldn't. Should have mentioned daycare, pickup, the neighbor, the thin margin he lived inside every day. Instead, he stood up. Her office looked different in the late afternoon. Softer light. City shadows stretching long across the floor. She stood by the window, jacket already on, phone in her hand. You're leaving early, she said. On time, he corrected. I have a kid. Something in her expression shifted. Not annoyance. Consideration. Sit, she said, gesturing to the chair this time. He did. I won't keep you long, she said. I wanted to be clear about boundaries. His chest tightened. She faced him fully now. I don't cross them lightly, and I don't forgive mistakes often. But I recognize honesty when I see it. He nodded once. I meant what I said earlier, she continued. I felt something reading that message. That doesn't mean I intend to act on it. He didn't speak. This wasn't something you interrupted. But I also don't lie to myself, she said, and I don't appreciate being watched. His brow furrowed. Watched? She smiled faintly. People are paying attention. To you, to me. That makes things complicated. He exhaled slowly. I don't want special treatment. I know, she said. That's why you won't get any. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. She stepped back, opening the door. Go. Pick up your son. He stood. As he passed her, she spoke again. Quiet. For what it's worth, I admire that you leave on time. He paused, then nodded. For what it's worth, that means something. That night, his kid talked nonstop at dinner. School stories. A new drawing. A question about whether dads get scared too. Yeah, he admitted. All the time. But you still go to work, his kid said. Yeah, he said. Because some things matter more than fear. Later, after bedtime, his phone buzzed. A single message. You made the right choice today. No signature, no context. He stared at the screen longer than he should have. This wasn't flirting. It was worse. It was acknowledgement. And that's how lines start to blur. Not with desire, not with temptation, but with understanding. The first real crack didn't happen at work. It happened on a Sunday afternoon when everything was supposed to be calm. He was at the grocery store with his kid, pushing a cart that kept pulling to the left, arguing over whether cereal counted as dinner when his phone vibrated. He almost ignored it. Weekends were sacred. Work stayed out of them. Almost. The sender wasn't saved. Just a number. Is this a bad time? He stared at the screen. He knew who it was. Somehow, he just knew. He typed back. I'm with my kid. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, understood. I won't intrude. That should have been the end of it. But a minute later, I hope you're having a good day. He sighed, leaning on the cart. We're surviving, he typed, which is basically winning. A pause. Agreed. That night, after bedtime stories and teeth brushing and one last glass of water, he sat on the couch and stared at his phone. He didn't text her. He shouldn't. But she had already crossed into his weekend, and pretending otherwise felt dishonest. You don't have to disappear on weekends, he finally typed. Just don't expect fast replies. Her response came almost immediately. Noted. Thank you for the clarification. It made him smile. That was her. Direct. Controlled. Even when stepping into something unfamiliar. Monday hit hard. A board member showed up unexpectedly. Meetings stacked. Deadlines tightened. Stress climbed the walls. He barely saw her all day, just a flash of dark hair, the edge of a suit turning a corner. By late afternoon, the building buzzed with tension. At 6:12 p.m., his phone rang. Her name, he stared at it, then answered. Yes? I need you, she said. Straight to the point. 10 minutes. Conference room B. I'm leaving, he said. My kid. I know, she said. I checked the time. Of course she did. 5 minutes, she added. Then you go. He hesitated, then nodded. 5. The conference room was empty when he arrived. She stood by the table, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly out of place. Not frantic, focused. "I need your numbers," she said. "The variance doesn't line up." He stepped closer, opening the file on the screen. They worked in silence at first. Efficient, professional. Two people who knew their jobs. But the silence shifted. "You could have said no," she said suddenly. "I know. Why didn't you?" He shrugged. "Because you asked." That earned a look. Not cold, curious. "That's not enough," she said. He met her gaze. "Because I respect what you're trying to build, and because 5 minutes didn't cost my kid anything." She studied him, then nodded once. "Thank you." They finished in 4. He packed up. "I'm going." She didn't stop him. As he reached the door, she spoke. "You're good at this," she said. "Balancing things." He laughed quietly. "I'm barely holding it together." "That's still balancing," she said. At home, his kid was half asleep on the couch. Cartoon paused mid-scene. He carried him to bed, tucked him in, sat on the edge a little longer than usual. Later, his phone buzzed again. "I won't ask again during family time." He frowned. "You don't have to promise that." "I do." That was the moment he realized this wasn't accidental anymore. This was intentional. And intention carried weight. The office didn't notice the shift right away. That was the dangerous part. On the surface, nothing changed. Meetings still ran long. Emails still stacked. Deadlines still loomed like they always had. But beneath it, something subtle had taken root. Not drama, not scandal. Awareness. She stopped emailing him late. Not once after that promise. If something came up after hours, it waited. If it couldn't wait, she solved it herself. That alone said more than words ever could. At work, she was colder with him than before. Sharper, more formal. Anyone watching closely would have thought she was distancing herself. They were wrong. She was protecting them both. He felt it in the way she never raised her voice at him, in the way she challenged his ideas openly in meetings, then quietly approved them afterward, in the way she treated him like someone who didn't need saving or favors. And still, they kept colliding, in hallways, at elevators, in moments where eye contact lasted half a second too long. The tension wasn't sexual. Not yet. It was worse than that. It was recognition. One afternoon, he found her sitting alone in the break room. No phone, no laptop, just coffee gone cold in her hands. That alone was strange. She looked up when he entered. "Sit," she said. He hesitated. "People are not here," she cut in. He sat. They didn't speak right away. "You don't talk about your kid much," he said finally. "I don't bring him to work," he replied. That wasn't a criticism. He nodded. "He's my line. The one thing that doesn't get negotiated." She looked down at her coffee. "I don't have one of those." That landed heavier than she probably intended. "Everyone needs one," he said. She looked at him then, really looked. "What happens when you don't?" He thought about it, about nights alone, about messages sent to the wrong person, about how loneliness didn't ask permission. "You start confusing quiet with peace," he said. "And they're not the same." Her jaw tightened slightly. The silence stretched. Not awkward, just heavy. "I didn't ask you here to talk about this," she said eventually. "I know, but I'm glad you sat anyway." He smiled faintly. "Me too." That night, after bedtime, he found himself staring at his phone again, not waiting for a message, just aware of it. One came anyway. "Do you ever regret choosing the harder path?" He didn't answer right away. Then, every day he typed, and then "I don't." Her reply came slower than usual. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," he sent back. "But it's also honest." The next day, HR announced a restructuring, new roles, new responsibilities. His name was on the list. Not promoted, transferred. A role closer to strategic planning, more exposure, more pressure, more proximity. She called him in. "This isn't favoritism," she said before he could speak. "I know," he replied. "You'll be watched. I already am." She almost smiled. You can decline, she said. He thought of his kid, of rent, of growth. I won't, he said. Good. As he stood to leave, she spoke again. Be careful, she said quietly. With the job? With me. He paused, then turned. Too late, he said. We already are. She didn't respond, but she didn't deny it either. The transfer changed everything. Not in the dramatic, explosive way people like to imagine, but in smaller, more dangerous ways. His desk moved closer to the executive wing. His meetings shifted. His calendar filled with names that carried weight. He was suddenly in rooms where decisions happened instead of being filtered down later. And she was there, more often than not. They didn't sit next to each other. They didn't linger after meetings. They didn't exchange knowing looks. If anyone was watching closely, there was nothing to see. That was the problem. What existed between them had learned how to hide. The first real slip happened during a late strategy session. The kind that dragged on because no one wanted to be the one who said enough. By the time it ended, the building was nearly empty. He packed up fast. He had promised his kid a movie night, even if it was already late. She caught him at the door. You're leaving, she said, not accusing, observing. Always, he replied. She nodded. Walk with me. They moved down the hallway together, footsteps echoing softly. You don't ask for help, she said. I ask when it matters. And when does it matter? He thought for a second. When asking won't cost me who I am. She stopped walking. That's a luxury, she said quietly. Or a boundary. She looked at him then. Something tired flickered across her face. Boundaries are easier when you're not alone, she said. He hesitated. This was new ground, dangerous ground. You don't have to be, he said. Not completely. She scoffed softly. You make it sound simple. It's not, he said. It's just possible. They reached the elevators. The doors opened, empty. They stepped inside. The doors closed. The space shrank. Neither of them spoke. The elevator started down. You shouldn't say things like that to me, she said suddenly. I know. Then why do you? Because they're true. The elevator stopped between floors. Lights flickered. Of course. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. You've got to be kidding me. He smiled despite himself. This feels about right. They stood there, trapped in a box that hummed quietly, city lights barely visible through the glass wall. You don't flinch around me, she said. Should I? Most people do. I'm not most people. No, she agreed. You're not. The silence thickened, not uncomfortable, just charged. I don't cross lines, she said. I know. But I think about it, she admitted. That was it. The moment. The crack. He didn't move. Didn't step closer. Didn't touch her. Thinking isn't a crime, he said. No, she replied. Acting is. The elevator jolted, then continued down. When the doors finally opened in the lobby, they stepped out like nothing had happened. Outside, rain had started, light, persistent. She stopped under the awning. Go, she said. Your kid's waiting. He hesitated. Are you okay? She looked at him, surprised by the question. Usually, she said. He nodded. That's not an answer. She smiled, really smiled this time. Brief, gone just as fast. Be careful, she said again. He turned to leave, then stopped. So should you? That night, after the movie and popcorn and his kid falling asleep halfway through, he sat alone on the couch, replaying the elevator moment in his head. Not the tension, the restraint. That was what scared him, because it meant this wasn't about impulse. It was about choice. And choices have consequences. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They crept in. Small changes first. A missed smile, a delayed response. Meetings where her attention drifted for half a second too long before snapping back into place. He noticed because he paid attention, because he always had, and because now it mattered. The rumors didn't return loudly. They didn't need to. What replaced them was something quieter and sharper. People started watching outcomes instead of behavior, decisions, access, influence. Someone like Mark didn't miss that. He caught it in the way Mark suddenly volunteered for the same meetings, in the way he positioned himself just close enough to overhear, in the way his questions became less about clarity and more about implication. One afternoon, Mark cornered him by the printer. "Funny thing," Mark said casually, eyes flicking toward the executive wing. "You move up fast. Some people take years." He didn't respond. Mark smiled. "Must be nice." He met Mark's gaze. "If you have something to say it." Mark's smile thinned. "Careful. People are starting to ask why you—" He leaned closer. "And people like me, we don't stop asking." That night, she called him. Not texted, called. He stared at the phone before answering. "Yes, you need to be aware," she said. No preamble. Someone filed a concern. His chest tightened. "About what?" "Perception," she said. "Conflict. Influence." Silence stretched between them. "I didn't do anything," he said. "I know," she replied immediately. "But knowing isn't always enough." He exhaled slowly. "So what happens now?" "We get ahead of it," she said. "I recuse myself from anything tied to you, publicly, completely." "That hurts you." "It protects you," she said. "And you?" A pause. "That's not the priority." He closed his eyes. This was the line. The real one. The one neither of them had said out loud yet. "It should be," he said. She softened then, just a fraction. "You don't get to decide that." They ended the call without resolution. At home, his kid noticed the tension again, quieter this time, watching more than speaking. "You're thinking too loud," his kid said as they brushed teeth. He laughed weakly. Didn't know that was possible. "It is," his kid replied seriously. "Mom used to do that." The words hit harder than expected. He crouched down. "What do you mean?" "Her brain was always somewhere else," his kid said. "Like she was here, but not really." He swallowed. "I'm here." "I know," his kid said. "Just don't go away." That night, he didn't look at his phone. The next morning, the fallout landed. A formal notice. Internal review, not disciplinary, clarifying boundaries. She handled it exactly as promised. Stepped back. Removed herself, cold, professional, untouchable, and distant. Painfully distant. They didn't speak for days, then weeks. Work became work again. Efficient, clean, hollow, until the email came. Transfer approved. Optional. He stared at the screen. Different division, same pay. Less exposure, less pressure, distance. He knew what it was. An exit ramp. He went to her office. She didn't pretend to be surprised. "This is your out," she said quietly. "And you?" he asked. She looked at the city beyond the glass. "I don't get outs." He nodded slowly. "If I take it, this ends?" "Yes. And if I don't?" She finally turned to him. Her eyes were steady, honest. "Then we stop pretending." The room held its breath. So did he. He didn't answer right away. That was the difference between impulse and intention. A few weeks ago, he might have reacted on instinct. Now, he understood the weight of silence. The cost of saying yes too fast. The damage of saying no without thinking it through. He looked at her. Not the CEO. Not the woman with power. Just a person standing alone in a glass office that had never really belonged to her. "If I stay," he said carefully, "this won't be easy." She gave a small, humorless smile. "Nothing worth choosing ever is." "And my kid," he added. "He comes first. Always." "I know," she said. "That's why I didn't pressure you." He nodded. "And I won't be hidden, or leveraged, or whispered about." Her jaw tightened. "Nor will you be." Silence settled between them again, but this time it felt steady, grounded. "I'm not asking for promises," she said. "Just honesty." He thought about the transfer email, the safety it offered, the clean ending, the quiet life where nothing complicated followed him home. Then he thought about his kid asking him not to disappear. "I'm staying," he said, "but we do this right, slowly, openly, or we don't do it at all." She didn't move for a moment. Then she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath longer than she realized. "Agreed," she said. Nothing dramatic happened after that. No kiss, no grand declaration. Just two people choosing clarity over chaos. The company announcement came a week later. Clear policy updates, clear reporting structures, transparency written into every line. People stopped speculating because there was nothing left to speculate about. He stayed in his role. She stayed in hers. And slowly, naturally, the space between them shifted, not at work, outside of it, coffee after hours, then dinner, then a quiet walk where no one knew them as anything but two adults figuring things out. He told her about his kid properly this time. The routines, the fears. The way bedtime questions could unravel him faster than any boardroom confrontation. She listened, really listened. She told him about loneliness that came from always being the one in control, about never knowing if people wanted her or the position she represented. They didn't rush. Months passed. When his kid met her, it wasn't dramatic either. Just a nervous hello, a shared dessert, a cautious smile that grew into something comfortable. "She's not scary," his kid whispered later. He smiled. "I know. It's late," and late one night, sitting on the couch after his kid was asleep, she leaned her head against his shoulder. "You never said it again," she murmured. He knew what she meant. "I didn't need to," he replied. "You already knew." She smiled, eyes closed, and for the first time since 3 accidental words changed everything, the quiet felt like peace. Not the kind that hides loneliness, the kind you build,